Okay, hi everybody. Thanks so much for coming. And this is technically our last class. We'll have another Q&A at the end of this course, but this is kind of the last class for Diamond Cutter Sutra, the content of the course anyway. So I'm just kind of going to sum up a little bit. There's a few more things to talk about. And then once we do the question and answer class in this component's done. And then in the new year in January, I'm going to start teaching just some other classes. There's some stuff from Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life on karma that I wanted to talk about for a few classes. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so let's just get started with our Heart Sutra here. Just make yourselves comfortable and receive the blessings of this sutra. Homage to professional wisdom of Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and mass vultures mounting near the great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomenon called profound illumination. That time also Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, looking perfectly also at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Form is empty, and emptiness is form. Emptiness is none other than form, and form is none other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, this all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics. They are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There is no I element, so forth up to no mentality element, also up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, and no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing utterly beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest, complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection, wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal and unequal mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayatam Gata Gata Paragata Parasamvati Bodhisoham. Shariputra Bodhisattva, great being, should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to Superior Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, the great being, that he's spoken well. Good, O son of the lineage, and it's like that. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised, but unspoken by the Blessed One. Okay. So let's just take a moment to get into our sort of meditation position here, with straight back and legs crossed, or if you're sitting in a chair. And start to visualize the merit field and all sentient beings around us. So we'll start with all sentient beings, as typical. We're seating in a wide open space on a ground like lapis. All sentient beings in concentric circles around us. From people closest to us to the people, of course, farthest away or who we don't know. So our mother on our right, left, I should say, father on our right, people we love the most as support behind us, and people we like the least as objects of compassion and care in our meditation. Moving outwards from that, we can think of people from all over the world, people from our work, and then people closest to neighbor, and then just people from all countries and cultures. And then from there, animals, all different kinds, just the whole living natural worlds with us here. And the whole spirit world with all its different classes of spirit beings in all different planes and places as well. celestial beings, gods and demigods, and countless beings in lower states of rebirth, hungry ghost beings and hell beings. So we're all here together. It's sort of a big sentient being family. And the sky above us is like a big dome, completely clear and beautiful, blue sky. And in it, again, just doing sort of simplified form here, is just before us like a beautiful big sun or a big harvest moon, depending. We can visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha sort of floating in space. It's very simple, made out of golden energy. So you can sort of, he's translucent, you can kind of see through him. He's wearing the 3 robes of a monk, and he's holding a begging bowl from missile nectar in his left hand. His right hand is touching the earth with an open palm in the subduing mudra. And they always say just Buddhists, the moment you look at them, you're completely blissed out and relaxed and open. They're just so, so beautiful and kind and calm. So just our minds like that, just looking at Buddha Shakyamuni. And then at his heart, a little bit smaller. So by our scale here, be the size of a grapefruit or so. But of course, in the sky here, Buddha Shakyamuni is really, really big. Is his divine sort of Sambhogakaya or angelic form, Conqueror Vajradhara, and his partner Vajradhatu Ishvari in their sexual embrace. He's in meditation posture, and she's in his lap with her arms around his neck, her arms around his neck. And they have beautiful sapphire blue bodies, wearing crowns and so forth. And he's got a bell in his left hand and Dorje in his right. She has a skull cup with medicinal nectar in her left hand and chopper knife, her cleaver in her right. And between them is a little hum letter, which you can visualize the Tibetan script or the Sanskrit letter, or just even the English uchi wem, because it's a vibration that we're thinking of more than a letter. And this represents the divine mind or Dharmakaya mind of the Buddhas. Okay, with this, leaving all sentient beings, you take refuge. I and all sentient beings and who achieve enlightenment go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings and to achieve enlightenment go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings until we achieve enlightenment go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the virtues we collect by giving them the perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving and the perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving and perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Okay, so generating our motivation, bodhicitta. Here, just really taking a moment. Again, just thinking that through the 6 perfections, giving, patience, moral discipline, joyous effort, concentration, wisdom, may we become enlightened to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment as well. And having done our refuge, again, we can just do the refuge purification now. Beautiful white light and nectar, sort of energy like plasma, but it's blissful. It's kind of like a gel, almost like an energy gel coming down, in addition white light. So that coming to us from the hum letter at Buddha's heart here, purifying us and all sentient beings. So just like light into the shadows, dispelling all the darkness. It's our body here. Our body becomes crystal clear and clean. All the negativity going out like black smoke and soot and so forth. And sort of just all sentient beings, we're all crystal clear. It's on this sort of vast plane here. We're all got sparkly and crystal-like. And now the light and nectar changes color to sort of a golden color, just the same color of Buddha Shakyamuni here. And this is the empowerment. First one, the purification. Second one, the merit, your energy, your virtue energy, your empowerment, all the sort of spiritual power going into us here with the lights and nectars. All of us glowing like little suns or stars. So all the wisdom, the power, and the compassion of Buddha is going into us. And you think do the 4 measurables now. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no one ever be separated from their happiness. May everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. So as we think of that, just the love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, all that energy coming down, we're sharing all these virtues with all sentient beings from our hearts here. So this waterfall of golden energy into us. And then as it goes up, we're all sharing it amongst each other. We can just feel that all this energy, kind of like a whole interlinked web between us, these sort of virtues are going out. Love, compassion, joy, equanimity. Okay. Now moving on to the 7 limbs here. Making our practice Buddhist. Prostration, offering, declaration, rejoicing, asking all holy beings to stay, to teach, and dedication. So in prostration, just feel we're making prostrations to Buddha Shakyamuni here, showing respect with our body, speech, and mind. Even just respecting our own Buddha nature, seeing the identity between ourselves and Buddha Shakyamuni on this higher divine level. And making offerings from our heart. We can do the outer, inner, secret, and sectionist offerings if you know them. Otherwise, just like I always like doing, we can just like Samantabhadra, emanate beautiful flowers out in all directions, billions of flowers. So it's like being in sort of a mountain field or a pasture or sort of a valley here with all the meadow flowers everywhere you look. Declaration, confession, and rejoicing. Just acknowledge all of our shortcomings, the really awful parts of ourselves, our bad character traits, bad habits, and so forth, all of our failures. So before Shakyamuni Buddha and all sentient beings are standing up and owning who we are. And who we are, it's because of karma. There's always reasons for all the bad things that we do, just childhood issues or past life issues and so forth. The point is that it's our responsibility on the ethical level to purify these and to change them. So just in front of all sentient beings, the Buddhists were standing up and saying, yeah, this is me, all the shitty parts of myself, and yeah, I'm going to try hard and outgrow these and let them all go. And so self-perfect and self-overcome on my way to enlightenment. And then moment after that, of course, they go hand in hand to rejoice. Rejoice in the progress you've made. Rejoice in what you're doing. Rejoice even meditating right now. Rejoice in all the wonderful qualities of the Buddha, that you will be just like them one day. And all the wonderful virtues in the world right now. All the good things people do. All the good people in the world and so forth. We're all slowly progressing to enlightenment. And that's something to be happy about. Asking the Buddha to stay and to teach, so we can sort of in our hands send that beautiful white lion throne, goes and dissolves into the Buddha, and then an 8-spoked golden Dharma wheel, sort of send that dissolves in the Buddha too. So please always stay with us. Please always guide us and teach us. Always be the light in my life, the Buddha and all the holy beings and all of our gurus, and always give us the personal advice that we need on how to integrate Dharma into our day-to-day lives, that we reach awakening. And then we dedicate all of our virtues, may it be for the enlightenment of all sentience. Okay, holding a mandala in hands here at our hearts, purified universe. Visualize the Vedic universe with Mount Meru and the continents and all precious substances, if you like. your heart. And otherwise, just all beautiful worlds, all beautiful possible worlds being completely pure and gorgeous. We offer up to Buddha Shakyamuni and all Buddhas and holy beings here and light beings. We say the ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, a great mountain, four lands, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offered thus. All beings enjoy such pure light. We send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious gurus. So just one more time, opening our heart, the mind of generosity here, to receive the blessings and teachings of Buddhas in the circle of giving, circle of reciprocity here. So having done that, again, golden lights and nectars come down like sunlight into us and all beings. So once this sort of sunlight hits us, it sort of awakens at our heart, our little diamond Buddha, representing the emptiness of the mind, our own Buddha nature. So that's sparkling in this golden light. So we look around us in our mind's eye here, and all sentient beings have the same nature. Sentient being is defined as a mind possessor. A mind possessor is mind is described also as a object possessor, or in other words, it's intentional. It always is in relationship to something. So that's what makes a sentient being a sentient being. And then on top of that, there's almost an Aristotelian definition here for sentient being, like the animal soul, which is that a sentient being desires to be happy and doesn't want to suffer. So the fact that we have a mind means that we want to be happy and we don't want to suffer. Right? So all of us have minds. And if all of us have minds and these minds are empty, all of us have Buddha nature. From little bugs up to big spirits and dragons and people and gods and hell beings, all of us have this divine nature. Just holding this in our hearts. And we can feel that Buddha Shakyamuni starts to melt into light. And just almost like looking at the sun on a body of water, like a lake, where it's a little, the sun's out reflecting in the lake, but then there's some waves and it's kind of like a little wobbly or undulating a bit on the surface of the water. It's the same thing happening, almost like a reflection here in a mirror on the water. It starts to glow, Buddha Shakyamuni start to dissolve inward into his heart, into the divine cup. And then they get really, really small. We can visualize them the size of a sunflower seed or mustard seed if you're a good visualizer. If you're not a good visualizer, you can visualize them like about the size of a grape. The sky like a beautiful blue diamond or a sapphire. And they float down to the crown of our head. Turn around. Enter our crown chakra. We need a light so we can do this. And then slowly entering the central channel in front of our spine and descending to our heart. And they become one with the little diamond Buddha. Let's dissolve into that. And we can feel that their mind and our mind become one. So just like dropping the sugar cube in the cup of hot water, it completely dissolves. It also makes the water sweet. You drink it, it's like, wow, it's sweet. Or stirring honey into water, all the divine qualities, all the compassion, wisdom, and power of the Buddhas and so forth, all of them go directly, realizations and attainments go directly into us. Again, like getting a shot at the hospital or an IV feed, you need whatever, a saline solution they put in the IV, and you're in a hospital holding the IV thing, going right into you, same thing here. But at the same time, we have to think that the emptiness of their mind and the emptiness of our mind, the Sobhavakaya part of the four bodies of the Buddhas is exactly the same. Their mind, on one level, is clear and cognizing, just like ours, and that is empty. So it's the same thing. So water forming to water. meditation here. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I always think it's nice to always have that sort of awareness, kind of like the little, you can sort of have that symbolic representation at your heart here of the Diamond Buddha. And I know my friend Chuck always used to say that that was, he heard a quote by his Eminence Zasep Rinpoche, very famous Kagyu Lama, that said, if I had 10 seconds to explain Buddhism to people, I would just teach them Buddha nature, that's the most important thing to teach. If you had to sort of like, you're in an elevator and someone's like, hey, here's your Buddhist, I got to go to work. And it's just like, what what can you tell me about Buddhism? It's like, Buddha nature, that's it. But okay, bye, see you, good luck at the meeting. Like, you just have just that moment, because basically if you're teaching someone the emptiness of the mind, and that the mind is completely plastic and flexible, and you can become anything, and you can stop your suffering and become completely amazing, blissful, divine being. Yeah, that's all you really need to teach people. And one thing our friend Chuck always said is that Buddha nature is like a natural fact, and almost like a natural kind, so to speak, is that it's always there. That doesn't change. The natureless quality of your mind never goes away. It's always there. So you can't undo your Buddha nature, no matter what you do, no matter how you lose it. So even if you're like, whatever, I'm going to blow up all the stupids in the world and kill everybody and take all sorts of drugs, and then I commit suicide and I go down to hell and I'm suffering or whatever, I still have Buddha nature. The little diamond Buddha is still there. It's like I can't erase it no matter what. So that's the good thing, is that you can't undo that natural part of quality of the existence of your mind. So it's always there. So you can always restart. You're always Joe Deleuze, my favorite philosopher, always said, start in the middle. Like, you're always in the middle of everything. Everything's always going on. Like, just, you can always start, restart, do anything at any moment, because everything's empty. Mind's empty. So I always think that that's a beautiful, beautiful thing to remind yourself with. Okay, so let's, last class here, let's take a look at some of the material here. So I'd just like to talk about the two extremes of middle way philosophy for emptiness, and then how to sort of get enlightened, or how to go to a bit of Pure Land, how to go to paradise, these kinds of things. There's I've got sort of a list here in my last sort of notes here for the last class. So starting with the two extremes of middle way philosophy, or Madhyamika, or the emptiness of school, best expounded by one of the two great saints of Buddhism, Arya Nagarjuna. So of course, when Buddha was alive, before he died, he gave prophecy. He said, after I die, about 500 years later, from now, there'll be two amazing Buddhist saints who will come and really extrapolate and illustrate and sort of teach and do commentary on my teachings. And these being Arya Nagarjuna from South India, and Arya Sangha from Northwest India. So basically, maybe first century AD. I can't remember when Sangha, he might have been second century AD. But anyway, so famous because both of them give commentary on emptiness. And Nagarjuna famously sort of brings about with the Madhyamika, or middle way school or philosophy of emptiness, and the Sangha brings the mind only school or Yogacara view on emptiness. Both are important, both go together, both illustrate one another, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So what we're talking about is the middle way understanding of emptiness here. So first one is Yuta, which means edge cliff, and meta, which means exist cliffs. Okay, what does that mean? So the two extremes, like middle way, is the idea that the correct view of emptiness is sort of in the middle. Sort of, it's almost like if the highway was sloped downwards and there's a cliff on either side, you have to walk in like the dotted line in the middle of the highway. So it's almost like a tightrope. You have to walk on that. Otherwise, you roll off onto one side and off a cliff. The middle way is between two sort of wrong understandings of reality. or sort of, yeah, two sort of wrong views of phenomena. So going right down the middle, we sort of cut right down the middle, you get the correct view of how to understand conventional reality, and so correct view of how to understand emptiness. So the first one is that the one extreme is that when we look at things, we think things exist the way they appear or the way they seem. So in other words, things appear separate to me, they appear unchanging, they appear inherently existence, they appear to have a nature. That's our everyday conception. And so there's a sense of them being called, this is called eternalism, or that they seem there's something, some solid static nature to things, some indivisible remainder of things, so to speak, whether that be sort of, you know, things themselves, like objects around us. There's a real world that doesn't change, that we're kind of dropped into, like dropping a marble into a sort of a bowl. There's the world or the universe. It's always been here, it'll always be here, doesn't change. We kind of fall in here by some fluke, do our thing and then die. Or there's sort of an unchanging permanent substance or reality things. There is, you know, a creator God, supreme principle, divine energy that's always already been there, it will always be there, it never changes. Or a true self, higher self, divine consciousness. This doesn't change, it's always the same, it's completely substantial, this and that. So whatever you want to say that sort of nature of things is, this is seen as one extreme. Okay, so it's illogical, of course. This idea that you're positing sort of an inherent nature, as we've said, we've done all this sort of past coursework on emptiness, claiming that something exists outside of any kind of a relationship, including a relationship to thought where you're thinking this thing, that itself is sort of course, like an error, a logical error, a mistake. It's illusory to think that. So this is the one extreme. In other words, things appear to exist dualistically. They appear, when you look around, to be substantial, independent of my mind, even independent of one another. You know, my book looks separate from the table, for instance. This is one extreme, the extreme of existence. And of course, the other extreme is that if things don't exist the way they look to me right now, then they couldn't exist at all. So the other extreme is that, okay, if things aren't truly exist and substantially exist, then nothing exists. It's all it's all baseless, you know, nothing, you know, whatever. It's all like a bad dream. Nothing hangs together, so nothing matters. It's all just like whatever. And this is what they call the extreme of nihilism. And so the point is that with these extremes, is both of them are a bit of a trap. If the eternalist extreme is that really I can't do really anything, I might not even have free will, nothing can change, I can't make any impact, I certainly can't change myself because I'm caught in a system that doesn't change. It's almost like being stuck in glue or sort of jello or whatever, right? And then the other thing is you get to extreme of nihilism, which is even more pernicious, is that nothing counts. Everything is absurd. There's no such thing as ethics. There's no such thing as karma. You know, anything goes, whatever. So it doesn't matter what I do in this life. There's no point in living it. And there's certainly no point in being a good person because, well, what's the point anyway? I know there's nothing that sort of happens. I'm not rewarded. Nothing's produced from my good actions. And so these two extremes are the two mistakes that you can make when you look at reality, right? So Nagarjuna says, understanding emptiness correctly is like picking up a snake. Of course, we're in Canada, we don't have a lot of snakes like in India, but of course you've got king cobras or whatever venomous snake, you don't want to get bit. So understanding emptiness, when we talk about things being changing or just imputed by the mind or this kind of thing, it can be a little slippery and you don't want to fall into one of these two extremes. So he's like, when you pick up a snake, you don't pick it up by the tail. Pick it up by the tail, turns around and bites you. You pick it up by the head. And so it's the same thing with understanding emptiness. How we understand it, like the correct view is the middle way between these two extremes. Things do exist, so they appear substantial, but they don't exist inherently, okay? They, in other words, they exist in a dependently originating or dependent arising way. Most of all being the dependent origination of me imputing or talking about them or thinking about them conceptually, using language, so forth. That's how things exist. So that's how to grab the snake by the head, okay? So in Tibetan, when Tsongkhapa talks about this, how to prevent extremes, it's Nang Wei Yu Tesel, which is by understanding dependent origination, we illuminate the way or dispel or clear away the delusions. In other words, by understanding dependent origination, how projections work, you can get rid of thinking things are the way they appear. Okay. Understanding emptiness dispels the idea that nothing matters because things are empty, everything does matter. Things can change according to your karma. Okay. So it's because of things not having a nature that things can interact and be interdependent, change causally, change the way we impute them and so forth. And that's how we can change things for the better, that we don't have to be sort of stuck in the situation we're in. The situation we're in, ironically, is because we haven't understood karma or dependent origination, because we've been grasping at inheritance, because we've been eternalists, we've created the kind of karma to put us where we are now, where we're stuck in samsara. Okay, so this is the case, and we want to change our karma. We have to understand cause and effect and be a good person, be virtuous, follow the Dharma path. Okay, so this is what it means to sort of exist in a middle way. So things, quote unquote, do not exist from their own side. In other words, do not exist outside of relationship. I hope that's clear looking at you guys there. Okay, so again, we've talked about this before. This isn't the last time, of course, we'll talk about it. There's other courses coming that like to teach on Heart Sutra and stuff, where we'll go back to this probably again and again to the point where you're like, oh my God, more emptiness, my goodness. So that's a brief presentation of understanding the two extremes of middle way philosophy. So then, based on this, how do we get enlightened? How do we go to the Pure Lands? How do we get to paradise? These kinds of things. Okay, so this is a little bit of a list here. What does it mean to sort of create a paradise or create sort of a pure land in your mind? Okay, so number one, it's the first of physical things to create paradise. Two, directly perceive the totality of knowable things. Three, reach the final limit, stop aging death. Four, bring forth your own dharmakaya. See the quality of all objects, i.e. this is number five, see everything in its conventional ultimate nature. Six, physical body, bodhisattva turns into Sambhogakaya. And seven, he attains cause to emanate many bodies in the Manakaya. Okay, so let me just try and put this into, okay, objectives, bad karma purifies bad karma, even though things, okay. So basically you can see that how is it that if we just understood the middle way here, between eternalism and nihilism, what does this allow us to do? Well, this frees everything up. If things exist in a middle way, if things just exist as dependent origination or exist in relationship to one another here, sort of in a huge causal network, all I have to do to create reality is to manifest it, to create the cause for it. So there's prayers where we say, like, because things are empty, because things are interdependent, because things don't have a nature, because things are in a causal sort of complex, may this be the case, may this be created, may this be manifested. So again, it's a little like The Secret. I don't like that kind of power positive thinking because, of course, it's too easy because they always say, oh, just manifest it, bing, bing, bing. In other words, okay, I want whatever, $1,000 bill in my hand. Ding, oh, it's not there yet. What? How come it's not happening? It's not that easy because I have to create the karma for it. I have to create a whole causal line or network. I have to create the energy, gather this together, and then things over time start to manifest. It's like growing seeds in a garden. But the point is on an ethical level, by creating the right kind of karma, I start to produce the right kinds of appearances or manifest the right kind of reality. So this is where I'm gradually working towards, and this is sort of a deeper discussion, because it seems on one level that we're creating or positively adding to reality, right, on a certain level. But at the same time, you see with emptiness, it's a negative critical thing where I'm stripping away things at the same time. I'm revealing things. So insofar as I'm properly acting with karma, constantly doing good things, constantly walking the path, I'm manifesting reality, I'm creating reality. But at the same time, I'm actually, in a negative way, getting rid of delusions, letting go of things, stripping away bad thoughts, stripping away all this. It's almost like going to the dentist where they're scraping all the tartar off your teeth. All the delusions, like in the Buddha nature teachings, they say, like your Buddha nature, the emptiness of your mind, it's like a beautiful gold Buddha statue wrapped in disgusting, dirty cloths. I'm pulling those dirty cloths away. I'm scrubbing the dirt off diamond. I'm cleaning the mirror, so to speak. Okay, but what happens is that, just on sort of the, like I'd mentioned here, where um, as I'm moving towards enlightenment by following a proper karmic path, following the eightfold path, the true paths, like we've talked about, the true sufferings, the Four Noble Truths here, true sufferings, the true origins and true cessations. Where do my sufferings come from? Oh, my bad karmic actions and delusions. True cessations, I know what those are, so I can turn them off. I can stop my bad actions. I can purify my delusions that have led to the bad actions. And then the fourth noble truth of the Eightfold Path is, it's giving me a path to walk. The Eightfold Path is all the good things that I have to do, like right action, right speech, right intention, right livelihood. That's laying down the karmic path that I'm walking along. So once I do this, and of course, as we've seen through the five paths, where I go for the path of accumulation, the preparation, path of seeing emptiness directly, path of meditation, where I'm integrating my experience of emptiness into my daily life, moving towards enlightenment, and path of no more learning, I'm purifying my mind. I'm doing this the whole time by correct understanding of karma, the three higher trainings. I'm practicing moral discipline. I'm being a good person, acting with love and compassion and so forth. And at the same time, I'm using my concentrated mind to meditate on emptiness, the concentration and wisdom here. So once I'm able to, again, creating all these good sort of actions, I'm manifesting beautiful reality. I'm creating positive karma that's ripening as bliss and beautiful appearances in my life. Reality itself for me is changing. Okay, so once I get enlightened, it says I directly perceive the totality of noble things. Once I actually reach nirvana with bodhicitta, this is sort of the path of no more learning. At that point, to be a Buddha, I see conventional truth, or all sort of interrelated conventional objects in sort of a system of dependent arising. I see that directly, and I also see emptiness directly. That's what it means to be a Buddha. And in my case, what is the reality appearing to my mind? Completely pure reality, because of my pure karma. The dependent arising, the appearances, the aspects coming into my mind are completely pure and beautiful. But at the same time, I can see emptiness directly, right? So this is what finally sort of what they say reaches the final limit to stop aging and death. Well, I no longer have contaminated appearances. Even when I look at myself, I see myself as a Buddha. There's sort of a state of immortality here, right? My appearances, I don't have the true sufferings of old age, sickness, and death. Those are appearances that are created by karma. I've stopped those appearances. They are no longer in my mind. When I look at myself, I just see the pure reality of a Buddha in their Pure Land, right? So this forth, I bring forth my own Dharmakaya, my omniscient mind of a Buddha that perceives emptiness and conventional reality at the same time. I see everything, yeah, sort of in its conventional and ultimate nature. I see the quality of all objects. The physical body of Buddha turns into Sambhogakaya. So how do I manifest this enlightenment from the Dharmakaya omniscient mind? Well, I'm manifesting a Buddha's body in Buddha's paradise, an angelic body in a completely pure reality that I've been creating, right? Through my good actions, through all my merit. So it's like being Green Tara or Manjushri, Vajrapani, Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara, or whatever, in this completely pure state where my mind's pure. Mind is reality. So the projected world that's being projected from my mind is pure because my mind is pure, because I purified it, created all this positive karma. And then I create the cause to emanate many bodies, or in other words, Nirmanakaya. So as this angel in a Pure Land, what am I doing? All I'm doing 24/7 is sending out billions, numerous bodies, sort of angelic emanations. And what are they doing? The only thing that they can do, the only thing they do, which is teaching emptiness to sentient beings, teaching the path, teaching the Four Noble Truths. But most of all, when you really boil it down, they're teaching emptiness. They're teaching the same path I use to get enlightened. So, I think it was, I can't remember, Charles Barkley, this one basketball player, said, if you're rich, become rich in the United States, make sure that you go and help people with it. So he says, you take the elevator up, you get off at the penthouse, but you send the elevator back down to bring everyone else up. So it's the same thing here, using analogy, like I'm enlightened in the Pure Land right now. All what I'm doing now is just helping all sentient beings reach that same state. So that's what it really means to get to a Buddha Pure Land or a Buddha paradise there. And how emptiness is the direct antidote to bad karma. It purifies our bad karma. And also at the same time, it allows us, because things don't have a nature, they're completely plastic or flexible, to overcode or overwrite, purify, rewrite with the positive karma there. And then I like this one thing is, things are empty. There's a person's karma causes them to project reality. And it's interesting. So what is, when something is changing, is working or isn't working or so forth, changes, there's moves or shifts or causes. Is this a cause in the world? No, it's a cause in your mind. Like what's interesting here is that what we're only talking about, all these changes or causes or like whatever shifts in reality, these are shifts in your own mind, because basically your mind is reality. So all of this stuff that we're talking about is basically a change in manifestation, a change in projection, right? So I always tell people when they're doing karma, it's like, okay, yeah, really, okay, I've done my whatever, my empowerment here, and I'm supposed to visualize myself as Buddha or Green Tara. Give me a break. So I'm like Matthew on my day off from work, having my Starbucks, but I have to visualize myself as this green lady. Are you crazy? I feel like I'm going crazy. And I remember His Holiness Dalai Lama said years ago, he met people, sort of Western people, I guess, that didn't know what they were doing, that basically were crazy because they didn't get any emptiness teachings, but they got tantric empowerments. And so what they thought is that they were like a Buddha, or they're enlightened, but enlightened in the way that like Clark Kent is Spider-Man, or no, or is Superman, I should say. Who's Peter Parker Spider-Man, right? So the point is that Peter Parker's the guy going to work, but really his real identity is Spider-Man, right? So in other words, I meet the Dalai. Hi, Your Holiness, it's so nice to meet you. Well, actually, I'm Green Tara. Matthew Richards. My regular job is as a flight attendant, paying a mortgage with the Royal Bank. But deep down, I'm Green Tara. When His Holiness says, no, the whole point is Green Tara has overwritten the Matthew. Like they don't simultaneously exist together. You don't have your ego and Green Tara together like a secret identity, or like the Kinder Egg surprise inside the chocolate. The point is there's no longer any Matthew, right? Otherwise, you're basically becoming sort of a schizoid personality here, right? So how you can do this, how you can actually be Green Tara, be in a paradise, is precisely because you're changing your manifestations or projections, because that's all anything is anyway, right? So that's the most important take home here when we're talking about the Four Noble Truths or talking about emptiness, is we're just talking about that everything is a projection of the mind. So if you change your mind, you change reality. So I always say, it seems weird to visualize yourself as a green lady and you look out paradise, and you read the description of Tara's paradise. Oh, it's so amazing. But you think, wow, but the point is you're already a self-emanated person, like kind of like a worldly deity living in the junkyard. And that's your regular worldly life. Like Matthew Richards is fictional. It's just a projection of the mind living in this completely screwed up world, right? That's a function of my delusions and my bad karma. So the point is they're both virtual projections. There's no foundation. They're both equal, right? Green Tara or Matthew, whatever, with his weird life here, in samsara. The point is, which one, it's like life of pi at the end. Which story do you want? It's your choice. The point is habitually, we're stuck in this one. I'm paying it forward constantly by being so attached and having all the weird surplus enjoyment of being Matthew, right? Because I'm thinking the happiness I want so desperately, the peace of mind, the bliss I want, I'm going about it in the wrong way. I think it's actually the worldly samsara that's going to bring this to me, right? So that's why I just keep spinning my wheels in this virtual creation. But the point is, you can step off the pendulum into this other reality and become an enlightened being. It's completely possible. So anyway, that's that. That's kind of the end. There's a little thing I have here, which we'll talk about in later classes, is the status of public or external reality. How real is reality, right, in terms of our projections? And that's sort of a different discussion on the difference between the schools of emptiness, right? Between the lower schools and the higher schools. But that's a really long conversation that we don't have time to talk about today. So there we go. Just I think I'd like to end there. I think it's nice. And my first teacher always taught me, again, Kelsing Tarchin, to always leave everything unfinished, because then you'll want to come back to it. So if there's a few little things missing here, that's suspicious, because then it'll make us want to return to the material at a later date. You guys have any questions or any comments at all for that? We're going to have, like I said, a class on sort of a question and answer class. I think we could sum up all of the stuff here on Diamond Cut, because there's a lot of material. But just right now, you guys are good? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so let's just take a moment to dedicate here and to sum it up for the last class, I guess, for 2022. And I love this class, Diamond Cutter class. I just realized studying, and I've taught this a few times at Gancholing in Toronto, at Zerling in Vancouver years ago. And every time I sort of teach, I teach like teaching myself, like, you know, there's sort of a little self-interest here where I like going over the material. And it's funny, I haven't done it in a few years. I did it in Toronto maybe back in 2017 or so. It's been a while. And so I kind of couldn't remember some of it. I was like, man, this is really awesome material. I just forgot how good it is. And like Rinpoche said, like, it's like when you study Diamond Cutter Sutra, is like studying the Heart Sutra. We all study the Heart Sutra. You go to Zen temples, Heart Sutra. You go to Chinese Pure Land temples, Heart Sutra. Everyone's always going about the Heart Sutra, but we forget the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And it's just as awesome. It's just, I guess, because Heart Sutra is so short, it's so easy to read. Everyone kind of likes that one, but this one, the teachings in the Sutra from Buddha are really, really, really good ones. So let's just dedicate that. May we always have access to these teachings on Diamond Cutter Sutra. May we read it again and again and study it again and again. May we really get all the realizations of the Sutra, that we have a direct experience of emptiness, and may that experience be put towards the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Okay, thank you. Just press stop here.